And this is the one opportunity that I wanted to take with you and kind of talk about. I want to speak explicitly and specifically regarding my philosophy on how I think we should move the 103rd and how I believe that we can move the 103rd in such a manner, in such a way that the 103rd can at any time accomplish its mission, any place, and when given that direction can do that. Now, that's easily said than done, or easier said than done, because the way that we accomplish missions is with you and what you do, and you are the greatest assets as a result. So this afternoon, I want to just talk about that, and then I want to give you the opportunity also to ask questions. Now, let's talk about how we do this. You have the one opportunity to ask me any question you so desire without any repercussions. Now, let's be a little bit responsible for that, because I see somebody smiling already. But you get to ask me any question you want without going through the chain of command. And I ask that you be responsibly. I'm going to take a little risk out here on Sunday and do that. But before doing that, I first want to just address you a little bit on my philosophy of command and where I think we're going and where I want to take this command. First, my introduction. I'm sure you've already read a piece of paper that has some things about me. I'll just briefly mention that. My name is Jonathan McCollum. In fact, I am from Warner Robins, Georgia. And yes, it is cold in Iowa to me. I'm currently staying in San Antonio right now. And most of you know that I was an AGR for 28 years. And I came off of the AGR tour, first looking at retirement, but was promoted. And so now I am a TPU soldier, and this is a very unique time for me and very different for me, but nonetheless, it's a rewarding time for me, and I'm just excited to be here. Now, I want to do something to make sure, and I hope this won't produce any feedback. I want to make sure that everybody's with me. So the way that I do this, I want to do a little bit of test. So if you have something in your hand, take it out of your hand. And I need to know, was anybody with me last night in a presentation last night? Sergeant Major, don't you dare give it away. Okay. All right, this is what I want you to do. All right, everybody, number up a little bit. Everybody clap your hands 3 times. All right, that means we're ready. Everybody pat your head 3 times. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Pat your hands 3 times again. 1, 2, 3. Pat your head 3 times. 1, 2, 3. If you have an exquisite nice tie, it is made of what? Silk. Somebody said it is made of silk. A real good tie is made of silk. So an exquisite tie, a good tie is made of what? Silk. Clap your hands 3 times. Clap your head 3 times. A very good tie is made of what? Silk. Clap your hands 3 times. Clap your head 3 times. A good tie is made of what? Silk. Cows drink what? Milk. Water. Water. I don't know. I think I heard milk. I don't know. Cows from Minnesota and thus far cows from Minnesota and cows from Iowa drink milk. Okay, so that's very interesting. Okay, all right. I'll leave you alone. Well, let's do this. I'm going to try to be really pointed about this. I want us, this is my desire. What is my purpose? What is my desire for this command? And it's real simple. The General Carroll has stated he wants to create an environment of professional excellence. And I agree with him. And he's correct. But I'm going to use a little bit more simple language. I want us and I want you to be the very best. I don't want to be number 2, okay? The desire is to be number 1. And number 1 in our professional excellence and being prepared to do what we need to do. In other words, I want us to be prepared to go and do what we can do whenever we can do it, and I want us to be the best at how we do this. And that means every single person in here. Now, you said you're just saying that because you have to say that in front of us and you have to do this. No, I'm not saying that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And what does that mean? And I want to translate what that means in terms of being the best. What it means is that you are no longer allowed, if you have if you're required to do 40 push-ups on the PT test, you're no longer required to do 40, you can no longer do 40 push-ups and get up. It's got to be your goal to try to match or do more than the minimum. And I want us to become the command where the minimum is no longer allowed. That you'll help me, that you'll look at the person on your right and the person on your left and charge them and make sure they understand that minimum is no longer enough. Okay? And if we get this in our mind, I promise you, not only will this impact you as in this command or in the military, but I promise you it'll also impact you in your general lives. How many of you have minimum spouses? How many of you eat minimum hamburgers? How many of you want the minimum car that you can buy? No, you want better. Am I right? You say yeah? No? Okay. Well, if that's the case, then I would ask you in your personal endeavors, why would you settle for mediocrity? Why is it okay to just do the minimum? But I want to set this bar. I want to take this bar and I want to go a little bit higher with it. So I'm asking you to join me, that you will encourage each other, and that whatever we do right here, whether it is in training, whether it's APFT or whatever we do, that it is no longer your goal to be mediocre. I'm not saying that it is. It probably isn't, because the 103rd is actually in a very good position. But you'll help me in that your goal is to be better than you are right now. And that we're all headed toward maxing out every single opportunity. With that being said, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Why haven't you gone on to the next level in your education? Why are you satisfied with where you are in your level of education? Is it that being mediocre is okay with you? If you have a bachelor's degree, I want to ask you a question. Why haven't you gone for the master's degree? You mean to say you're not better than that? You mean you don't mind settling for the wimpy hamburger? You mean it's okay that mediocrity is okay with you? You mean to say that millions of other people have done other things? You mean to say that you can't do it? Well, I beg to differ. I know that if I can do these things, and I'm not the most brilliant guy. Well, kind of. No, I'm kidding. But I'm saying is that you have the same element of humanness as I. And I want you to be the best. If you're the best at what you do, then we get to be the best as the 103rd, and you also get to be the best in your own personal lives. Now, what is the vision? The vision is, when called upon, the 103rd ESC will answer as the capable force servicers and suppliers, and I've already mentioned this, at any time and at any place. Now, I already have the record that you've already done that. The record shows that you're quite capable and you're prepared to do this. Now, the goal is to be the best, and it's achieved by individual excellence. How many of you were at the change of command? So that I'll know. If you remember at the change of command, I stated that if the one person at the very lowest level, the individual is broken, that person impacts what? The whole command. Because I remember it said, if you are a messed up person and you're in the 103rd ESC, then you contribute to a messed up squad, a messed up company, a messed up battalion, a messed up brigade, and eventually the messed up 103rd Expeditionary Sustainment Command. So that means that the best that we can be means that, unfortunately, we got to create some synergy. And synergy means that, Sergeant Billings, if you're failing, then the whole 103rd is failing somewhere. It means wherever you are, Sergeant Willock, it means that if on the APFT, we finish the APFT at 2 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock you're crossing the line, there's a problem. You know what I mean? It means that if you've completed one level of certification, Sergeant Goddard, and you completed that same level of education 6 years ago, and you haven't achieved anything else, and that makes us mediocre. So what am I saying about this? I'm asking you to look deep down in your soul, look in your heart, and say that I don't want to be mediocre, that I want to be the best. And part of that means you, and it has everything to you taking responsibility for your own training. Now look, don't wait for General McCollum to ask somebody to do for you what you're empowered to do for yourself. Now look, we already know that inside of you there's a will and a desire. So I believe that you can make these things happen, but you got to do it. You got to take the steps. Look, there's a sergeant major over here, and I know he's as thrilled about your education and your upward mobility as I am for those of you who are NCOs and for officers. I'm interested as well. But you got to take some steps. You got to do some things because we only see you a couple of days out of the month, maybe. So what you do even at home is a reflection, and what you do in your personal lives is a reflection of what happens here and what happens out there. So I'm asking you to up the ante a little bit. And how can we do this? And these are the parts of my philosophy. Doing the right thing just because it's the right thing to do. No real explicit comments required. Just do the right thing because it's the right thing to do and you'll find yourself in trouble. Now we know there are certain things that we can't smoke. Just say yes. Just say yes. Those things get us in trouble, right? Just say yes, right? Okay, good. There, there are certain people that you spend a lot of time with inside of the same house. You can't you know what I mean? You can't hit them. You can't beat them up. You know what I mean? I just want to be realistic about it. There are certain ways you treat people. You said you care about them, so if you care about people, you can only treat them, you have to treat them a certain way. You already know if the speed limit, this is mine, if the speed limit is 65 and you're going 60, maybe you get a little bit, you have a little bit of a leeway. But when you start approaching 75, 80, and 85 and so on, in other words, there are certain things that you know are right. This is so easy. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And I will formulate these philosophies and they'll be posted real soon. To those of you who are leaders, leadership without compassion isn't leadership at all. Now look, has anybody in here ever gotten in trouble at all? Anybody in here ever gotten in trouble? Did anything wrong? Nobody? Sergeant Major, I was going to say. Look, I promise you that on the way that all of us have fallen short of what we intended or who we intended, but the good thing about this is that unfortunately there are repercussions for our actions. All right? I'll be the only one. Has anybody ever gotten a speeding ticket? Okay? You guys, I think nobody else got a speeding ticket. You got a speeding ticket or got in trouble for doing something that you should not have done. In other words, there are repercussions for our actions, and please understand, when we get ourselves in trouble, I need you to be thinkers. Before you strike that match, please understand that there are repercussions for striking a match if it's in a dry forest. There are repercussions. If you think like this before you strike, then perhaps it'll help you to avoid getting yourselves in trouble. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Now let me see, where does that fit in this command? Treat each other, and it's part of this. Do the same thing to somebody that you would want them to do to you. We're in this briefing right now, and in this assembly. Major St. John, how would you feel if I just ripped you up and down, left and right, and said, you wouldn't want me to do that, would you? You say yes? You say yes? Nobody wants to be mistreated. There's an element of humanness in almost all of us. No, in all of us, I hope. There's an element of humanness that wants to be treated a certain way and deserves a certain amount of respect. When you go to a ball, an example, don't take somebody else's wife with you, okay? Does that make sense? Take your own, Mason. To those of you who are in leadership positions, this is the compassion piece of that. Yes, the law says if you're speeding, there's a strong possibility that you may have to pay a certain fine, this, that, and the other. But you've been relieved of that based on the circumstances. So I'm asking you this, and I'm talking to the leaders, and leaders, you're here, right here among everybody else. Exercise judgment when giving out judicial, when exercising punishment. But please understand, when we get ourselves in trouble, there are repercussions, right? You have to know this, right? So the best way to avoid it is just avoid getting in trouble as best you can, all right? and you really got to work toward this. And leaders, please understand, be measured in how you deliver punishment based on actions. Let it weigh the circumstance. Now, and that to me is reasonable. I've already used the illustration, focus incessantly on the problem. Okay, this is, if we painted a bullseye on the back of this screen, and we all had darts, the goal of the darts, or throwing a dart, is to hit where? Bullseye, in the very center. That's the way we have to look at problems. When you're dealing with a problem, if you're throwing darts means you're trying to find solutions. If you hit the outside of the board, you hit 2 or you hit 3, that means perhaps you're hitting around the problem, which means the problem is not going to be resolved. But when you're throwing darts directly at the problem, then you're answering the problem. So I would say that when you're working on problems, trying to resolve them, throw darts at the problem. Throwaway courses of actions mean nothing in the MDMP process. Well, MDMP, do you guys know MDMP? Yes, maybe? In the MDM process, we've been taught, for whatever reason, that we develop a throwaway course of action. Okay, let's get rid of that. No more throwaway courses of action. Make them all valid courses of actions in such that we resolve and we're throwing real darts at the real problem. And you know why we can't resolve problems? Because we're not throwing darts at the bullseye. It's as simple as that. So I would ask you that when you're looking at problems and resolving problems, that we try to throw darts at the problem. The Army has values, and so do you. Respect the Army's values, and why don't you respect your own values? Many of you come from faith-based organizations. You have values in your families. I would ask that you honor those values of your families, of your faith. If you did that, it would reduce the amount of problems that we would face. In a simplistic way, I would state that. Look, bring me the bad news. Now, seldom will someone say this, I need to know the bad news or whatever's going to get us in trouble. When I say that, sometimes we can get ourselves in such trouble that we can find ourselves on CNN, Fox News, trying to resolve issues. Now, I want you to know that if something happens and the bad news has to be represented and you're the one that created the bad news, are they going to come to you? No. They don't want, the commander's going to be in front of the microphone trying to explain why the truck was backed up into the motor pool and had tanks on the back and matches and fire burners and, just throwing this, into another direction. But in other words, remember that creating news is something the public wants to hear. Let's not be a part of that except the news is good. Let's turn this thing around and throw and present and offer the news that we want the public to know about us. We're not going to hide anything, but it is our intent to get our good news out, and the things that are bad, go ahead and bring it up front. The sergeant maybe needs to know, tell him, the chief of staff, whomever, we have to know the bad news. So leaders, I'm telling you, if something's bad enough, I need to know it. Leaders, help me out. Go ahead and tell me. Now, do bring courses of action to me so that we can look at resolving whatever that bad news and actually go ahead and get it out so that the public can know and so that the commander of 377 can know and the Army Reserve can know at large. Okay? So in a simplistic way, bring me the bad news. We're one command and one fight. I want you to know that I don't see you other than as soldiers. I understand, I'm looking in this crowd, I see male, female, I see all hues of colors of skin, etc. But I want you to know that we're one organization, one fight, one goal, and if anything is counter to that, then that tells me that we have some problems. I don't look at you other than that you are a soldier, period. Okay? And I would hope that you would look at others the same way. Getting down to the last two elements, and I spoke about this last night, and I mean this, and it is simply this. Just because you fail does not mean that it's fatal. Now, what do I mean by that? Sometimes we get ourselves in trouble. Sometimes we don't reach the mark. We fall short. I want to establish something right here, a point. And that is that whatever you've done in your education process, if you've fallen short, if you didn't get the promotion and you worked hard and you thought you were supposed to be promoted and you didn't get promoted, I urge you and I push you to apply next time. Don't give up. Don't surrender. Don't throw the towel in. I need you to get back in the fight, figure out what you did wrong. Go review your files. Look into the mirror and see what you're doing. Is your APFT okay? Have you completed any additional education? What else have you done? What about in leadership? Have you volunteered for anything? Once you determine that, get up, dust yourself off, redo the packet, submit the packet, and get back into the fight. Just because you fail or a circumstance happened that put you in a position where you believe you failed does not mean that it's fatal. We're not an organization of failures. We're an organization of people who try to do something 10,000 times and we just figured they weren't the right way to do it. So we're back in the fight, okay? And at last, have some fun, train, and train. That, in a nutshell, that's my philosophy for you. I didn't say anything explicitly about command climate, and some of those other things, but they're consistent with what I stated, and you will see this information codified into one memorandum a little bit later on. The most important thing that I really want to make sure that you understand is that we're the one organization drawing the one line in the sand, and I want us to be able to accomplish our mission once again, no matter where we go, and even if asked, that we're ready to go. Is that okay? All right. I've said a lot right there about my expectations of you. I want to give you the opportunity now to ask, I don't know, maybe your expectations of me, and to ask any questions that you've been waiting to ask. You said, I can't wait to ask this question, and now it's your time. So I'm going to pause right now and entertain questions that you may have.
What is your stance on Sharp, and how do you feel based on what you've done coming into command and all the different changes you've made?
Okay, thank you. The question was, what's my opinion about Sharp? How do I feel about it, and how it's addressed for the most part in commands? And let me just say this: in everything I think that I've said, I think I've addressed in my philosophy a piece of that, and this is what I'll say specifically. First, everybody in the command is one, and everybody is uniquely somebody, and we are one in this command. Look, when you put something uniquely happens when you put when you put people together. We'll just do it that way. When you put people together, something happens. Sometimes it's called attraction. And sometimes that attraction goes too far. And sometimes, by virtue of our size, or the lack of our size, or our power and or our authority, we seem to believe that we can do whatever we want to do. But I want to make sure you understand that you have no authority or can wield no power on another individual. If this is your position, and this is where you came from in your families, we got to turn this around. Because I want you to know for sure that it's totally, absolutely unaccepted in this command. I would expect that each and every one of you to respect the individuals in this command and not try to coerce or push yourself in any way, by any means, using your power or your authority to coerce or convince, push someone into doing something that they don't want to do. All right. So do understand that the swift rules that the Army has provided will be waiting right there to sweep you off your feet. So in other words, don't do it. Sexual harassment is unaccepted. And why, I would ask you, why would you want to push yourself on somebody else? You know, I don't understand. That is so I can't fathom it. It's undefined. It's null set to me. But unfortunately, we do have people in our formations. Now, this is what I need you to do. I need you to help me when you see this happening. We're told, why don't somebody tell somebody when you're witnessing things like this? Why is there such a fear to point out something that you know is a virus and not bring it forward so that we can deal with it? The way we usually deal with these things, that we allow it, we pass it on, and allow somebody else to deal with it. Now, those of you who are victimized by this, do understand that when you allow these things to pass by, that somebody else may be the victim as a result of your unwillingness to report such actions. So my expectations are that all of us will put on our badge, our police badge, when it comes to sharp and other actions, that all of us will deal realistically with it. Don't let it pass. No, it's not funny. It's not that it's just fun. It's not that it's cool. It's not that it's just part of what we do. It's unaccepted. And it's unaccepted because it's just not right. Remember, there are two of my philosophical points that direct this. One, do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. That's the main one. And the second one is bring me the bad news. Bring me the bad news. Let us know what's going on. Use your chain of command if necessary. And if you don't trust somebody, then figure out whom you can trust. You can trust somebody in your chain of command. There are at least 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people maybe in your chain of command. I'm exaggerating. Find somebody and tell somebody. Let's not allow this to infiltrate the 103rd ESC. Let's do better than this. Let's treat people with respect that they deserve. So, very good question. Thank you. Did I answer? Answer? Thank you so much. Other questions? Go right ahead.
Sir, CW4 Dixon with G4. Things are obviously changing in the world right now. Where we thought we were going to be a year ago has obviously made a U-turn and gone the other direction. What do you see in the future of the 103rd as possibilities of participation?
Let me just say this first. I believe there's a debate going on the national level in the Army that the Arthurian cycle may go away. I think I've heard that before. I don't know that is a good idea for the Army Reserve in the sense that we are no longer a strategic reserve. I believe it is the commander's intent that we were never to become or return to the point of where we were a strategic reserve. But to those of you who don't understand that, the strategic reserve was the reserve that we came to on Battle Assembly Weekend, and we repaired that same deuce and a half 8 months out of the 12 months per year. We performed PMCS on that one vehicle, and we did that for a full Saturday, and then we went home. We didn't really train. We didn't really we didn't leave the center, and we after we finished, we went out by the tree and we took our jackets off and we had a good time. Well, that's not who we are. We will remain an operational reserve as far as I know. That means that we got to train, be ready. Now, this is what I need you to do. Look at the real world. Look at ISIS, ISIL. Look at that. Look at the threats in PACOM. Look at over in Yukon. Look at what's going on with Ukraine. Look at those things. From those, that should be an example to let you know the world, unfortunately, is not a peaceful world. Therefore, we've got to be ready. I'm not sure where we are in the cycle and whether we'll continue this Arthurian cycle where we're set and we're the next to go. I'm not sure how that's going to work in the future as we continue to reduce forces are reduced in Afghanistan, especially right now. But I do know this: it's our role. We've got to be ready to assume mission and training events and exercises throughout the world. So we'll continue to do that. It's my responsibility and the command's responsibility to ensure that we have the right training events for CSTX, warrior exercises, or additional exercises, overseas deployment training, and anything that we can do to ensure that we're ready to exercise, to perform our missions. Now, what can you do? You've got to stay physically fit. You've got to stay mentally alert. You've got to continue to advance yourself intellectually. Now, advancing yourself intellectually means your education, but not just for us, but advance your education just for yourselves. All right? at least this is about you. A part of this is about you, because if you give me your best, the 103rd will have the best, your families will have the best, and so will your church or your city, your community, whomever. So the goal is to be the best that you can be so that we can be prepared to execute our duties, because we are not operating, unfortunately, in a peaceful world. We just don't know what to expect. So need you to be ready. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Did I answer? Okay. Other questions? Please go ahead.
Sir, you just talked about training, and I wanted just to get your opinion of what you would deem as the top 3 to 5 command priorities here for the 103rd.
I have spent the last three months trying to figure out where we are short or where we need the most help. I'll tell you that one of the priorities is to ensure that it's, I'm looking at the command holistically, looking at it strategically, and I'll see that in the 103rd Expeditionary Sustainment Command we have subordinate commands called RSGs. And these RSGs to me may or may not train in accordance with their medal. So my number one is to ensure that our training is consistent with our medal, that our venues, that our CSTX, our warrior exercises, our ODT training, and whatever we're doing is consistent with our medal tasks. If we're not doing that, then we're not preparing ourselves for conflict, preparing ourselves for war. So I'm looking at medals now and looking at the training events that have been prepared to see if they're consistent with the other. All right? The next part I would say is that I've noted that throughout the command, and it's not just the 103rd, but I've noted that we have some human capital or some personnel issues. I've noted that in example in the SPO, that I believe we're 40%, that we're short on 40% position field. So we're working on some personnel issues. I believe Colonel Falk, who's serving as the head of an integrated process team to help fix these personnel issues. Those are very critical to us right now, and we've got to figure out how to fill those holes. The next, also included in that is plugging the holes, figuring out why some of your peers have left. Where are they going? Why are they going? Are we actually training? Are we actually using your time wisely? That's something that I'm taking personal. I want to figure this out. If you're coming to battle assembly and you're not getting anything out of this, or you're not training and you're not growing, and etc., then that means that we have a problem, and I need to figure out how to fix that problem. So those are the top two. I have a myriad of actions for the top 3 to 5, but those are two of my major priorities, and I want to ensure that we kind of work toward those and fix those. Number one, well, mainly because that has to do with executing our mission. We're a sustainment and service provider. We need to do that, and we need to do it well. Okay? So, good question. Please.
Sir, Lieutenant Colonel Bruce Jensen. Just want to dovetail off the training. Of course, training relies on funding, and so with the limited fiscal constraints that are going on the DoD budget, where would you see priorities versus individual training, schools, that type of thing, as well as other involvement with training exercises and other resource issues?
Okay. Understand how I see this. I see it first strategically. First, I don't see a peaceful world. Because I don't see a peaceful world, I see that there are four ways to resolve conflict in the world: diplomacy, information, military, or economic policy. Military, unfortunately, is always going to be a part of that. Because it is, in spite of sequestration. I like to see, with show of hands, are you familiar with sequestration? Okay, I'd like you to look that up if you're unfamiliar with sequestration. As a result of sequestration, we have the Department of Defense, or the budget has been reduced, and we can expect future reductions. However, with a peaceful world, I would expect that even as the powers of influence take place in Washington, I would think that funding is going to be available. We have taken a reduction in funding. But what I'd like to see is that the areas that you've mentioned, individual training, that has to do with unit readiness. Individual training, training for exercises and warrior exercises and CSTX, I would expect that those will continue. I believe that we'll have to figure out, and probably, I don't know which level, but we're going to have to figure out how to reduce even the Department of Defense budget without impacting training and readiness. Because if we're not prepared to execute our missions, then you can't call us up and expect us to go do our missions. So I think the funding stream may be smaller, but we're still able to do our CSTX and our warrior exercises, and we're still able to do some overseas deployment training. What is going to be required of us, quite honestly, and I need this to happen, is we're going to have to think, quote unquote, outside of the box. We're going to have to be unique. We're going to have to figure out how to do some interesting things, or we're going to have to tie some things together. An example. One day we may have to do an APFT, then we perhaps convoy to a site, do an APFT, convoy back, or we may convoy out to a site to set up, to do a jump top, set up and come back. In other words, combine different training, metal task training into one given day or a given 3 or 4 days to figure out how we can do everything at one time. So it's going to require some unique training from us, some unique principles, some different ways to do a lot of different things as we continue to see the reduction in funding. But right now, I think we're sitting okay. I have no idea what's going to take place in FY16, but all I can say with that is ... to be continued. Okay? That's realistic. Okay? Question?
My question was, you talked about strength management and getting out. Was there ever a time early in your career when you were just like, I'm ready to hang it up? And what kept you around and what motivated you to stay to the point that you are today?
Sometimes you really have to overlook a certain, overlook things. I'll tell you what I've been able to have. One of the things that I've done in my career that's helped me well is I've had tunnel focus. There are a lot of things, if you have tunnel focus, there are a lot of things going on in your periphery to your left, and a lot of things going on to your periphery to the right. But I would encourage you that if you stay focused on what you have to do, your requirements, your professional development, how well you do the APFT, how well you do your work in your moral life, how much you write or don't write on social media, yes, all of those things make you the better person. And if you're able to focus on, quite honestly, just yourself right now, you'd find yourself in a better predicament. Unfortunately, there are more people perhaps to tell you what you can't do. You can't listen to that. There are more people to share the negative parts of their experiences. This is what I shared with you. I consider it maybe a gift to ignore what is not true and what is hyperbole. It's an art to figure this out. And you know that if you hear the comment, if I were you, okay? If you hear that comment, just be careful, okay? You need to stay focused on your mission, your purpose in life, your goals, your priorities, and just remember these things, that you are representing a family, a culture, a municipality. There's somebody right now that's talking about you right now. Some grandmother is talking about her son. Some wife is talking about her husband. Some mayor is talking about a relative. Somebody's talking about you, and they're expecting you to do well. The way that you do that is you've got to stay focused on your own priorities. I can't do it for you. Because you're going to see a lot of things in your military career. I'm sorry, some of you are not going to be promoted, and that's going to upset you. Some of you are not going to have the right position that you expected, and it's going to upset you. Some of you are going to be in bad relationships, and they're going to impact you. You got to break free of it. You got to stay in control of that. You can't allow people to cause you to act emotionally about something. You've got to have that tunnel vision, and inside of this tunnel vision are those groups of things, your ethics, your morality, what you know to be right, and what you know to be true. You know you can't do certain things. You know you can't smoke certain things. You know you can't go certain places. And you know you can't be involved in certain relationships. And you can't allow people to drag you down to a common denominator where you don't belong. You got to stay focused. Remember, if you're a messed up man and you're in a a messed up soldier or a messed up soldier, you're in an organization, you're contributing to a whole messed up to the 103rd Expeditionary Sustainment Command. So it's up to you to make sure that you personally are not messed up. Now, you got to have mentors, and I'm talking to leaders. Leaders, you've got to mentor somebody. If you haven't mentored somebody, that's a problem. As you begin to increase in rank, senior NCOs, I would ask you, have you mentored somebody? Is somebody on your mentorship list? To the colonels in here, I would ask you, have you mentored any of the majors in here, lieutenant colonel? Have you mentored? And that's part of the problem. You've got to have that good program, and that helps you to become who you need to become, but most importantly, staying focused on your priorities and taking the hard jobs, okay? And hopefully that helped, but there's a bag of mixed possibilities when you seek excellence. And by the way, I think your excellence sits right down in your belly, in your visual organs. And I say your visual organs, it's right in your stomach, in the belly. That's where you have the guts to say that, yeah, it's cold outside, but I gotta finish. I was told that I can't take this job, but I've got to take that job. Yep, they didn't hire me for this position. Yep, they didn't. So there are a lot of reasons to say I'm finished. I'm fed up, I'm through. But I dare you to stay focused, stay involved, and before it's all over, when you look back and you're 70, 80 years old, you'll be glad that you stayed. And I used an example last night, I won't use today, that if you ask a 90-year-old man, did he have any issues? A 90-year-old man will tell you, or a 90-year-old woman will tell you, I went through divorces, I went through tax liens, IRS audited me, my wife left me, my husband left me, the IRS looked at me 3 or 4 times. So all of us have some wounds and all of us have some scars. The question is, will you be determined to stay focused on your lane and do what you're supposed to do and be the best at what you can do? Final point about this, everybody can't be good at everything. But the 1 or 2 things that you can max out, max them out. Because you may not be good at the number 3 and 4, but you're good at 1 and 2. And the 1 and 2 at least will put you above average. So what you're good at, max it out. What you're not good at, continue to improve on it. Okay? Let me just say in conclusion and finish this up with a few comments. I ask that I'm glad to be the commander of the 103rd. I never saw myself coming to Iowa, and that's just because I'm from Georgia and I'm in San Antonio. But I'm here now. And in my faith, in my personal faith, I believe that God has a purpose and plan for my life. And in my life, somewhere, the 103rd was a part of it. So I'm where I believe God wants me to be. The same God we talk about in the Declaration of Independence, who allows us to pursue happiness with the unalienable rights that he gives us. So with those rights and with that ability, I'm right where I need to be. I believe the same thing for you. You're right here where you need to be right now. That may change. So while you're here, let me implore, let me encourage you to be the best that you can be. Don't accept mediocrity as the day. Fix the problem. Train as much as you can, and using an old tenet from the Army, an old promotional thing from the Army, be the best that you can be. Be all that you can be. Somebody said, I don't remember that. I know. I know. But be the very best that you can be. And last of all, like I said, let's have some fun. All right? Let's have some fun while we figure out how to prosecute this mission, how we figure out how to do what we need to do and be the best that we can. So thank you very much. I appreciate this time. And let's get out and let's do a good job. Thank you so much.